Hey everyone, Chick here, and welcome to a new segment we're calling Chick's Mix, which is like Chex Mix, but with less carbs and more music. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the sessions behind some Chick and Danger music, see kind of how some of the mixing process went, whether you've done some audio production before or not. You know, there'll be some technical information in here that might be interesting for people who have done some mixing before. But even if you haven't, like I said, it can just be kind of an interesting way to see how a tune's put together. And I'm by no means a professional. I have fumbled my way through it thus far by hacking and whacking at the music that Danger and I have made together. If you're looking for straight up professional tips and, you know, really good insight, there's hundreds of thousands of people on YouTube that can do it better than I can. And I know because I've watched them trying to learn. However, none of those people have mixed Chick and Danger music. So firstly, let's have a look at what we're looking at here. This is our, what we call a DAW, or a digital audio workstation. We basically have a timeline running across the top there from left to right. So you can see that different sections of the song are kind of marked out. And then running down from top to bottom here are the different individual sounds. And you can see they've usually been labeled, sometimes in a more meaningful way than others. But this is basically what's helping us keep track of what sounds are being played at what time. And then another element you'll see pop up and back and forth is our faders here. And these are how we control the volume of those individual pieces of audio. We can also control things like panning, which is how it is split between the left and right speaker, whether you're hearing it in your left ear or right ear or both. And you can also see that we've got all these inserts along here. Along the top, and this is basically how we can affect the sound. We can kind of manipulate it, or we can send it to other places within the workstation before it gets to your ears. So that's just kind of like a super high level look at what it is we're looking at here. With that said, let's look at the first song we're going to take a look at here. And this song is Little Clouds.
Little clouds don't make a sound.
And we thought this would be a good one to take a look at first because it's probably the simplest, least dense song that we've done. You're looking at the entirety of it here. There's only 16 total tracks, which is really, really thin on the ground compared to some of the ones we do. We've got some where they're in, you know, they're like hitting 100 separate audio tracks, which obviously is a lot more work to try and mix and manage and put together. This is a nice, straightforward one. There's not a ton of instrumentation in it. It's pretty natural and open sounding, and thought this would be a good one for us to kind of take a look at. So up top here, first thing we've got is our ukulele. This is Danger's ukulele here. You can see it's actually two of them. There's one DI, which stands for direct input. And basically what that is Danger's ukulele has a little jack that he can plug it into and plug it straight into his computer, which is good for recording a nice clean audio source, but it can at times sound a little bit sterile and boring, right? So if we listen to that one by itself, it's pretty quiet here. I'll crank it up a little bit. Pretty nice and clean, but a little sterile, right? But what we can do is we can blend that in with one that he's also mic'd up as well. And that's the same take. He was playing that just at the same time. Just one take, one feed was being taken directly from the ukulele into the computer. The other feed was being captured by a microphone. And then they're just panned to opposite sides. So you've got one in one ear, one in the other ear. And the two sounds kind of complement each other nicely in that, you know, what the direct input lacks in kind of life, it has a nice clean signal for us to be able to work with. And then the mic'd one, you know, it's going to have some maybe less than ideal sounding room sound in it because it's a microphone, it's picking up everything in the room, but has a little more life to it, right? So you blend the two together and you can kind of develop a nice little balance, you know. And so that's basically running the whole way through the song, the ukulele.
Little clouds don't make a sound.
There's a little xylophone in here. I don't think that I did anything processing wise to this. It's just straight as Danger recorded it. So just a little virtual instrument. I don't believe he was there with a real xylophone, tinkering away on it, but I don't know. And then we've got this bandoneon here in the interlude. And this is pretty interesting because this is another virtual instrument that Danger recorded. And much like the DI signal from the ukulele, virtual instruments, they're great for getting a nice clean, kind of perfect sound, right? They're not subject to picking up things in the room, and if somebody's working on their yard outside, like, you're not going to hear that in a microphone or anything. It's just straight through the computer. But again, they can kind of sound a little bit lifeless, right? And that's kind of what ended up happening with this one after it had been recorded. If you listen to it in isolation here, you know, sure, it sounds fine, but and I hadn't really noticed that it could do with some improvement. And then Danger came up with the idea of recording himself playing on a keyboard but with no sounds coming out, to literally just get the key press sounds with a microphone to blend in with it to make it sound like a real instrument, which is a brilliant idea. I never would have thought of doing that. And if you listen to them together, now all of a sudden when you blend that sound in, it does sound like a real instrument, you know. So here, check it out. This is with just the virtual instrument. And then these are the key presses that he added. So it sounds kind of weird when you listen to it like that. But put the two together, and now it sounds like a real instrument, which you know, it's small things like that sometimes can make the difference between something sounding overly perfect, which is not always a good thing, right? To have no kind of life in it, you know. All right, and then as the second verse comes in, there's a whirly comes in here.
Ups and downs, they go handy, with lost and found's bitter candy.
I don't believe I did a whole lot. It doesn't look like I did anything to it. I literally just panned it. I didn't do any processing on that at all. So that one was pretty straightforward. And then let's see what else we got here. There's a bunch of strings coming at the end, and these are really pretty, so we'll take a listen to these.
And you've learned something new, forgot something true once a lie. 'Cause even a good man
I am not good at doing strings, but Danger is, so we'll leave that up to him. So yeah, real pretty. I don't think I did a huge amount on that, on the strings either. Like I said, this is a super natural sounding song. We didn't try to do a ton with it to make it something that it wasn't, you know. One of the things that we did do though, kind of in the essence of making it sound real again, you know, obviously at the time when we recorded this, Danger and I were working on this from like 3,000 miles apart. You know, I was in Washington, he was in Florida. So there was nothing that we were doing at the same time in the same room, but we wanted to try and impart that sound on it, that it was kind of like real, like it sounds like a nice natural song that could be being recorded in just one room. And so one of the ways that I tried to do that was with this room reverb here. And what this is this is a bus that has just a single reverb on it that I took a lot of the other instruments and fed into that reverb, so that they sound like they're all sharing a kind of a sonic space. And then when you blend that in the background, all of a sudden it does sound like people are playing in a room together, you know. So if we take a listen to it by itself, just the reverb, you could imagine this would be what it would sound like if you were standing in this space kind of at the other end of the room, and you're just hearing the reflections around this room that you're standing in, you know.
But then you
So that's the room reverb. So you can hear there's the ukulele in there, you can hear the strings are in there as well. And if we kind of cut to the end a little bit,
it's just floating around to be seen.
so that's trying to bring everything together. You know, that's to make it sound like all these things are happening in one room at the same time, as opposed to all these, you know, surgically separated elements that feel, you know, like they're not gelling at all, you know. Really one of the only things I did on that reverb was to get rid of some low end and some high end. The high end especially is an important one, I think, on reverbs to take care of, because if you don't, it can sound not like all these things are happening in a nice room. It sounds like all these things are happening in a bathroom with a bunch of high frequency reflections that it doesn't sound very good, I don't think. So here, this would be what it sounds like without this section taken care of up the top here. So it's kind of the difference between like a nice sounding warm room with maybe some furniture and, you know, the difference between that and a tiled room, basically, you know. And again, it's all about like, when do you want certain elements to take up certain space? And, you know, if the reverb has all this high frequency information in it, that can maybe start to step on things like the vocals or the guitar and the ukulele in there, where it doesn't need to be filling up that space. You know, it should be reserved for the things that need that clarity, and the room reverb in the background can kind of fill out the rest, you know. So speaking of guitar, there's only one in here. I didn't have a whole lot to add to this song, and the part that I did add, Danger had already written. So he had an idea of what this part he wanted to sound like, and I think he played it on like a keyboard and sent it over. I basically just learned it on guitar and then recorded that. So it's one guitar track. It was my Jazzmaster into just using a plugin, an amp simulator. And these early songs that we did together, this was kind of the transition between me recording real amps and using the kind of amp simulator pedal that I use now. It was kind of my first foray into using simulated stuff, whereas before I was used to using amps and things like that. So this was just a free plugin that came with the audio workstation before I got the Strymon pedal that I use now, and it actually sounds pretty good in a lot of instances, especially the kind of Fender-y emulation with the spring reverb. So this is what that guitar track sounds like by itself. So just kind of like the nice shimmery Fender sound, you know.
Oh, can't you see that little cloud? So strong and proud, it's just floating around.
So not a ton going on there really. That one guitar track with just a little compression on it. And again, you can see I'm feeding it into that room reverb. So everything that you see has this room verb on it here. That's just little instances of me feeding that instrument into that room reverb to make it feel like it's a part of that shared sonic space, you know. Okay, and then pretty much the only thing I think we haven't looked at is Danger's vocals. So let's have a look at those. And again, on here, I think it's pretty straightforward. I don't think we did a huge amount.
Life began with an apple. A woman and a man had a sample.
So right up front, this Lisp plugin is basically just to stop like harsh sibilants on like S and T sounds. And which can be distracting and not very pleasant to listen to. So this is just kind of chopping those off in places. And then beyond that, I really like this compression for vocals. It sounds really nice and warm and kind of imparts a little like grit on the vocal, which can really help it to especially stand out a little bit in more dense mixes, but I've just kind of started using it for everything. So here, we'll take a listen to it.
Life began with an apple.
And if I take it off.
A woman and a man had a sample.
So it just adds a little kind of hair on it, you know, kind of warms things up a little bit. And then I've got an EQ after that. This was on the older mic that Danger was using that had to do a little bit more work to get the clarity there, which I don't feel like I need to do on the stuff we're recording these days as much. But yeah, a lot of low information taken out because you don't really need that in a lot of vocals. It's just, you know, the important stuff is around here. So just getting rid of low frequency kind of rumbles and stuff that you don't really need. And then a little increase in clarity at the top. And then for his reverb, it was pretty straightforward. I used this one little free, super not fancy reverb. I don't know why. Sometimes I mess around with different ones. I have some other ones that I use, but this one sounded pretty good for what we were going for in this tune. So just real warm.
They're just passing through you, passing through me.
And it's probably a little warmer of a reverb than I would use in a denser mix, where you might want them to kind of have a little more sheen or a little more clarity on top to help it stand out. In this song, with there not being a ton going on through a lot of the song, I didn't feel the need to have to chop away at it to give space to other things, you know. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward vocal chain on this one.
Little clouds,
and that's about it.
Don't make a sound.
I keep going down here to scroll and find other things, but this is a very straightforward song. There's not a huge amount in there. Handful of instruments, 2 vocal tracks. That's nothing for Danger. There's some that we'll look at where there's like 20 plus, and where the list on the side is 3 feet long, which, you know, they'll be fun to take a look at. They are a lot more involved from a mixing standpoint, and they can look a little bit more chaotic than this one does. But figured this would be a good intro for having a look at some of these tunes. And I hope you enjoyed taking a look at Little Clouds.
By you and me.